This is the deep dive generated by Google Notebook LM on my post on YouTube entitled Two Compositions of Beethoven and Tchaikovsky with the adjective pathetic.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep, really deep. We're diving into how pathetic this idea of powerful emotion gets expressed in music.
And what's really cool is we're going to be looking at two composers from totally different times.
Right. We've got Beethoven
And Tchaikovsky.
separated by almost a whole century.
Yeah, almost 100 years between them. But they both wrote pieces called pathetique.
So first things first.
Gotta define our term.
Exactly. When we say pathetic, we're not just talking about like everyday sadness. It's way more intense than that.
It's like, think about sorrow, deep melancholy, even a kind of tender pity. Like when you see someone suffering and you just feel this welling up of emotion.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. And we're going to see how that gets translated into music.
Exactly. So we've got two pathetic pieces on the table. Beethoven wrote a piano sonata, his piano sonata, no 8 to be exact.
And Tchaikovsky went big. He wrote a whole symphony, his Symphony Ode 6.
Big difference in scale there. But both grappling with that same pathetic feeling.
So before we jump into the nitty gritty, can you explain the difference between a sonata and a symphony for our listeners? I mean, one's for a solo piano, the other's for a whole orchestra, right?
Yeah, totally. So imagine a sonata like Beethoven's as a really intense personal conversation. It's you and the piano exploring these deep, often complex emotions.
It's like a musical diary almost.
Kinda, yeah. It's intimate, expressive, really digging into the nuances of feeling. Now, a symphony, on the other hand, is like this huge, dramatic proclamation.
Like shouting your feelings from the rooftops.
Exactly. You've got this whole orchestra, all these different instruments blending together to create this massive wave of sound. It's powerful, overwhelming even.
So we're not listening to the whole sonata and the whole symphony, right? We're focusing on specific parts.
Exactly. With Beethoven's sonata, we're going to zero in on the second movement.
And for Tchaikovsky's symphony, we're looking at the beginning and the end. Why these specific parts? What makes them so pathetic?
Okay, so in a sonata, the second movement is often where things get really introspective. It's like the composer's taking a breath, slowing things down, exploring these quieter, more vulnerable emotions.
Like sadness and tenderness.
Exactly. Perfect for expressing pathetic. Right. Now, with a symphony, the beginning sets the whole tone for the piece. It introduces the themes, the emotions that are going to be explored.
So it's like setting the stage for the drama to unfold.
Exactly. And then the ending, well, that's where you get this sense of resolution, of coming full circle. So by looking at the beginning and end of Tchaikovsky's symphony, we can really trace how that pathetic feeling evolves over the course of the whole piece.
This is fascinating. Okay, so let's get down to the music itself. What are we actually hearing in these pieces that gives us that feeling, that sense of suffering, of pathetic?
Both composers use similar musical tools, but in very different ways. Take tempo, for example. A slow, mournful pace that immediately sets a somber mood.
Like dragging your feet as you walk.
Yeah, kind of. It creates this feeling of heaviness, of sorrow. Then there's dynamics. That's the loudness and softness of the music.
So like sudden bursts of loudness to express anger or frustration.
Exactly. Or moments of quiet, almost whispered despair. But what's really fascinating is how they use harmony.
Harmony, like singing in harmony.
Not exactly. In music, harmony is about how different notes sound together. Imagine a simple chord progression. You start with a major chord, it sounds happy, bright. Then you shift to a minor chord. Suddenly, everything feels darker, more unsettling.
Like a shadow has fallen over the music.
Exactly. Both Beethoven and Tchaikovsky are masters of using harmony to create that sense of unease, of emotional turmoil. It's one of the things that makes their music so powerful.
I'm also struck by how differently they use silence. In Beethoven, it's almost like he's holding back, afraid to let the emotion fully out. But in Tchaikovsky, it's like a floodgate opens. It's so raw, so unrestrained.
You're picking up on something really important there. Beethoven was writing during the classical era.
Which was all about balance and order, right?
Right, exactly. So even when he's expressing these really intense emotions, there's still a sense of restraint, of containing the feeling within a structured form. But Tchaikovsky, he was writing during the Romantic era. And the Romantics, they were all about letting those emotions loose.
No holding back.
Exactly. And you can hear that in his music. He uses the full force of the orchestra to create these huge dramatic climaxes. The emotions just pour out.
I wonder if someone who had never heard these pieces before, someone who knew nothing about Beethoven or Tchaikovsky or their time periods, would they still feel that difference in emotional expression?
That's a great question. It makes you think, doesn't it? Is pathetic this universal feeling that goes beyond culture, beyond time?
Yeah, like even if we don't understand the specific context, the historical influences, can we still feel that raw emotion, that sense of deep suffering?
I think so, yeah. That's the magic of music, isn't it? It taps into something deeper, something that connects us all.
Okay, so we've explored how two composers, separated by almost a century, tackled this really complex emotion of pathetic.
Yeah, and they used similar tools but created these totally different emotional landscapes.
Beethoven, with his restraint and structure.
And Tchaikovsky, with his unrestrained outpouring of emotion, it really makes you think, doesn't it? If music can transcend time and culture like this, does that mean there are these universal human emotions that we all experience regardless of our backgrounds?
What a powerful thought. And I think the best way to explore that question is to experience the music for yourself. Go listen to Beethoven's Piano Sonata No. 8.
And Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 6.
Pay attention to those specific parts we talked about. Feel the tempo, the dynamics, those shifts in harmony, and see if you feel that universal pathetic resonating within you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Until next time.
End of video.